Holocaust was a horrific, dark chapter of human history that was a massive contributor to World War II, but sadly it wasn't the only unjust crime performed during the war. Nagasaki was one of two cities in Japan subjected to nuclear warfare on August 9, 1945.
I was thrown to the ground with my bicycle, and my back was burnt by the blast and radiation in the blink of an eye. I felt the ground shaking for a while, and I thought I was going to die. But I assured myself that I couldn't die here. As things calmed down, I realized that the skin of my left arm, from the shoulder to the tip of my fingers, was trailing like a rag. Having felt no pain, I put my hand to my back and found my shirt was gone, and something black and slimy was all over my hand. My bicycle was completely twisted like candy.
Until now, it was believed that there was no link between the radiation exposure and blood vessel-related illnesses. However, as the atomic survivors grew older over the past 10 years, many of them started to develop cardiac infarction and angina. Our study shows a clear link between the amount of radiation exposure 70 years ago and the illnesses related to blood vessels.
Though the damage was done was less than in the more recognized city of Hiroshima, it is no less of a horrific attack on humankind.
The United States had multiple reasons for using nuclear weaponry on Japan. The primary reasons were to display their power to other nations and end the war faster. More than 190,000 people are estimated to have died from the bombing, but there is still no way for us to confirm these numbers exactly.
Many hospitals have been destroyed in the bombing, leaving survivors without any aid that left struggling with severe injuries, among them being severe burns and radiation sickness.
The bomb, referred to as Fat Man, was dropped from a USAAF B-29 piloted by U.S. Army Air Force Major Charles Sweeney. It was 10,800 pounds and destroyed 5 square miles of the city. Though it was less destructive than Hiroshima's bombing, it had a much stronger impact.
After the devastating aftermath of the Nagasaki bombing, Japan had little option but to surrender to the Allied forces September 2, 1945. Aboard the USS Missouri, the instrument of surrender was signed in Tokyo Bay, Japan, by the Japanese Foreign Minister Mamoru Shigemitsu and General Yoshiharu Umezu.
World War II in the Pacific, 4 years of bloody hell, came to an end here. September 2nd, 1945, a solemn ceremony on the deck of the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. A mighty warship and a peace to celebrate. The ship was packed with hundreds of sailors, Marines, reporters, cameramen, and top military brass with legendary names: Nimitz, Halsey, Wainwright, McCain, representatives of 9 Allied nations, and Supreme Allied Commander General Douglas MacArthur. Just before 9 that morning, the Japanese representatives approached the Missouri. They boarded in silence, took their places, and the brief ceremony began.
It is my earnest hope, and indeed the hope of all mankind, that from this solemn occasion a better world shall emerge out of the blood and carnage of the past.
MacArthur was about to become the interim ruler of Japan, and the Japanese people, defeated and afraid, did not know what to expect until this moment.
I announce it my firm purpose to proceed in the discharge of my responsibilities with justice and tolerance.
Justice and tolerance. With those words, one Japanese delegate later said, the deck of the Missouri was transformed into an altar of peace. The Japanese foreign minister signed the instrument of surrender, followed by the Army Chief of Staff. General MacArthur signed. Eyewitnesses saw his hands tremble. The Allied nations signed as well, bearing witness to the end of the worst war in human history. World War II finally was over.
Let us pray that peace be now restored to the world and that God will preserve it always. These proceedings are closed.
At that moment, as if on cue, the sun came out, and as the Japanese departed, a stunning aerial display. More than 2,000 Allied aircraft flew in formation over the Missouri. In Washington, President Harry Truman marked the moment.
The thoughts and hopes of all America, indeed of all the civilized world, are centered tonight on the battleship Missouri.
It was no accident that the surrender took place aboard the Missouri. The ship was named for Truman's home state. The previous year, then Senator Truman watched his daughter christen the Missouri as it was launched into New York Harbor. Just weeks after the surrender, the ship was back in New York, welcomed by thousands, including President Truman. He visited the spot where the war had ended. He sat at the surrender table to sign the guest book and described it as the happiest day of his life. Today, with this plaque marking its now famous deck, the Missouri is anchored where World War II began for the United States. Mighty Mo now stands proudly and at peace at Pearl Harbor.
Nagasaki's role in the war might not have been the same as others, but it wasn't less important. Nuclear warfare is a cruel, horrifying part in human history, and we cannot forget that.